The Storm Between Us by Vosotros, narrated by Renzi. Chapter 6. Charm. Anybody home? I called out in front of a green bungalow along the side of the street. It was the house of Kuya Danny, Michael's cousin. I called out one more time, but it seemed that no one was home yet. The door was closed, and so were the windows. Even the shabby and dilapidated wooden gate was locked tight with a rope. Maybe Kuya Danny or his wife was still at work or at school. I sighed as I looked at the street where I was standing. When Jake told me yesterday that Mike was sick, I felt the urge to visit him. However, something held me back. What if he was intentionally avoiding me? What if he didn't want to see me? That could be the reason why he wasn't replying to my text. But the more I think about it, the more I became curious as to why he was not responding. That is the reason why I am here, hoping that I would get the answers I needed, and finally, a closure. Charm? I heard a voice. I looked at the house again, and there, a man about the height of Michael was standing by the door. With his thick brows, kind hazel eyes, and gentle face, I immediately knew who he was. Kuya Danny! He walked towards me. Charm, what are you doing here? I'm sorry, Kuya Danny. I didn't mean to disturb you. Are you looking for Michael? I pursed my lips as I nodded. He hasn't visited me today, but he spent the night here yesterday, he said as he untied the rope locking the gate. Upon hearing those words, I became worried. Michael would usually sleep in Kuya Danny's house if he had a fight with his brother or his mom. This was even though Michael and his brother were both staying at their uncle's house. He would avoid talking to him, and Michael only receives his mom's call for compliance purposes. Come in, Kuya Danny called. Let's talk inside. I was about to refuse, but the curiosity of knowing what happened to Michael weighed in. So I went in. Time flies, I said, looking at Kuya Danny's 2-year-old son who was staring at me from behind the door. Just by looking at their abode, it was easy to see that Kuya Danny was managing his growing family very well. Yes, the house they were renting was small and unfurnished, but everything was kept neat and tidy. Come, Jam Jam, remember Ati Charm? You've met her before, right? Kuya Danny called his son. Jam Jam ran to his father, but still maintained his gaze at me, as if trying to remember where he had seen me. He was a cute and charming kid. I smiled and waved at him. Is Ate Carmen at school? I asked Kuya Danny. Yep, but she'll be home in a while, he said, stroking his son's hair. Looking at Kuya Danny, I couldn't help but admire his maturity. He was only 21, 3 years older than me, and yet he was already a good father to his son and a good husband to his wife. He was an engineering student, but because of this early responsibility, he had to stop his studies to work and provide for his family. I heard about you and Michael, though he didn't tell me the reason. Kuya Danny picked up the conversation. Even with the soothing tone of his voice, the words still stung in my chest. It wasn't easy. I bowed down my head. Kuya Danny sighed. I know. I have no right to interfere in your relationship, but I'm worried about Michael. He needs you now more than ever. I met his gaze. His eyes were gleaming with concern. Why? What happened? You know his mom, right? Kuya Danny asked. Michael must have told you before how Tita can be so harsh, especially those who disappoint her. Big time. Yeah, I know. I knew because Michael told me stories about his childhood, how his mom would almost push him out of the house whenever he would fail an exam. Even Kuya Danny experienced that because it was her who was supporting him in his education. But when Jem Jem came around, she pulled out her support, leaving Kuya Danny on his own. Did they fight? I asked. Kuya Danny nodded. Ever since Michael failed his two critical subjects, his mom became extra nagging. And last night, it came to a point that she threatened to disown him. That's why he spent the night here. Disown? Something inside me crumbled. I didn't expect that things would turn out this way. I'm sorry that I'm telling you this, Charm. I know that you two already broke up and that he's not your concern anymore. But I think you deserve to know. That's not true, I blurted out. Even though I broke up with Michael, deep down, I knew that I still cared. Do you still love him? The question caught me off guard. But Michael has already moved on, I replied. Do you really believe that? 1 week and there's no more love? Do you think he's faking it? I asked Kuya Danny. He sighed. I don't know, but he doesn't talk about you anymore, and he seemed to be his usual self like before. But still, it's just so hard to believe that he is already over you, just like that. I actually asked him about it, but he just kept on saying that he didn't know how it happened. If he's not opening to you, Kuya Danny, all the more that he will not open up to me after what I did. Will you talk to him? Kuya Danny asked. I could sense that he was hoping that we would make up, but I just maintained my gaze at Jem Jem. Just to have closure, I replied. Because of what Kuya Danny told me, I was more determined to talk to Michael. Though this might not be a good time to discuss the breakup, I believe that it would help him refocus his life. If he would know that I was after his own good, maybe he would listen to me. However, just 1 day after I talked to Kuya Danny, the big news came. Nathan had just won an international competition in engineering, and it was the first time that the university bagged the award. The morning after that, streamers congratulating him were posted all around. He's super intelligent, I heard Kat muttered as we passed by the College of Engineering. A big tarpaulin of Nathan was displayed from the top of the fourth floor down to the second level. He was smiling. But what would really draw anyone's attention were his beautiful piercing eyes and his confident stance. These were the reason, along with his being a genius, why he gained a lot of following in the university. I felt a pang in my chest. For sure, this would be another blow to Michael, and it would be so much harder to talk to him. That's it for chapter 6. Thank you all for listening. Shout out to LA and Ralph. Comment, like, and subscribe to get more videos like this, and see you again on our next video.